main issues that are emerging around fraud, and how do you tackle them?
So I think there are two or three things I'd highlight. The first is around prevention and identification. We know that fraudsters are becoming more sophisticated. They're using different channels. They're using social engineering to get people to make payments. And of course, those payments, because they're authorized, because you're seeing at the end of the phone and saying, yeah, I'll make that payment, go through the system pretty quickly. And we're working to find out what data do we have and that our customers have that we can use either ourselves or allow others to use to help us identify where fraudulent transactions have taken place, and therefore how can we recover those, but also to use that data to tackle prevention as well. I think in the card space, we've all been that moment where the card has been stopped from making a transaction because someone thinks it's fraudulent activity. That's a product of lots of data, lots of research, innovation, AI. We need to bring that same focus to app scams, frankly. So let's identify fraud, let's seek to prevent it, but we do need to work with the industry to work out how we reimburse people who have been defrauded. And that's quite a big challenge, I think, over the next couple of years, is to get that framework in place so that we do as much as we can to prevent fraud, but also protect consumers when it happens.
Myles, from your perspective, as your payments transaction volumes go up significantly, I think it doubled last year, what are the steps that Modulr's taking to ensure payments are safe?
For us, it's very similar themes to the ones Mark describes. We are reliant on that core infrastructure working very well. So we totally understand and appreciate how that needs to be superbly robust, because we can't deliver our services if it's not. And then that expands into what we're doing as well, and therefore running a really robust, highly available service is critical for us. So yes, we can talk about all of the innovation, but what we find is that the starting point with all of our clients, whether it's large enterprises or small businesses, it has to work and it has to be available. So we've been spending a lot of time, money, effort in making sure that is the case, and that's where we focus, whether it's on the reliability of the platform or whether it's on the security of the platform, but also, as Mark refers to, develop the central systems, developing new services, giving access to data as it becomes available. Then we're really keen to use it as soon as it's possible. So we were one of the first non-bank financial institutions to launch what's called confirmation of payee, so being able to try and verify where the money is going to, and is that where you think it's going to. But there's a lot more, as Mark says, there's a lot more that needs to be done that we can't do by ourselves. We need to work across the industry to be able to share data and cooperate to ensure that we improve the verification of where the payments are going.
Mark, perhaps we could follow up with to talk about the new payments architecture that you mentioned. Could you tell us a bit more?
So NPA is a much snappier title than new payment architecture. For us, it's a long-planned, much anticipated project to re-platform our payment system. So both BACS and FPS have been in place for some time. They need replacing, they need modernisation. They need modernisation to help facilitate more competition and innovation, but also to accommodate emerging technology. And without getting too sort of geeky about it, there'll be sort of two elements. One is a core clearing and settlement layer, and that clearing and settlement layer is key to everything that we do. We're going to have something called an overlay, which will be faster payments. But what it then means is that people like Myles and the other people in the payment space can think about what overlays can they develop that will plug into that clearing and settlement layer. So suddenly you move away from something that is very tightly controlled by us to something that is much more open and much more accessible. And I think then creates a much more positive climate for innovation, choice, for competition. And really, I think, starts to open up payments into the next generation and give people opportunity to think about new and more efficient ways to process transactions. One of the things we're keen to do as part of that is to use FPS as an alternative to cards. So that if you think about when you go to a shop and you use your debit card, that's processed by MasterCard and Visa. Can we use faster payments as an alternative to that to give consumers more choice? And that's some of the thinking where we are looking at as an organisation. It's something that the regulators, our two regulators, are looking at too. So there's lots of opportunities that will open up. But this is a huge project. It's not just Pay UK's architectural change, because we link with many participants or customers. They'll have to change their systems too. And we're into quite a significant period of technological change across banking and payments that we're part of here in the UK, but it's happening on a global basis.
Are the regulators moving fast enough to enable the innovation that you're both trying to bring about in the UK?
There's been a huge amount of change, and you can also disruption, but that has enabled the competition. It has enabled the innovation, and to be frank, without that we couldn't exist as a business. We're very focused on UK and Europe because despite Brexit, still there's a lot of commonality of the regulation and the approach, and therefore we can operate our business model of being technology platform, regulated, and wherever possible direct participation, settling access to the payment networks. We can operate that very credibly across the UK and Europe, whereas the rest of the world has not it's perhaps getting there in some places, but has not got there or not even thinking about it in others. So again, it's an example of UK and Europe being ahead, but to maintain that competitive edge, that advantage, and again the flow through we talked about to the economy, there's constantly more to be done, and also the innovation that's driving is then driving more ideas which need more change to support it, and more, I guess, education, and particularly as you get into areas like blockchain and cryptocurrency, where regulation is catching up and understanding is catching up. So there's definitely a huge challenge for the regulators to stay current, and I can see why that's them being able to develop their thinking, their services, an approach to it is critical to all of our success. So I definitely hope that we continue to stay at the leading edge of that from a UK point of view.
Mark, it sounds like you have an important role to play in driving this change as well. What's your perspective on managing through the regulation?
I think we're actually in a very strong position in terms of public policy around payments. And Myles was right to recognise the role that regulation has played in opening up access and creating that opportunity for competition and innovation. The direct access to these clearing systems was not something that was on offer a decade ago. It was through the major banks that created a competitive barrier, but public policy has been to create more competition, to reduce the risks of financial stability, but to create more choice for consumers. And that public policy driver is reflected in regulatory policy. We found, working with the payment systems regulator, a positive experience. We're both aligned on trying to improve competition and innovation. And so I do think we're it's very easy to knock the regulators, and a lot of people do.
Sure.
But actually the regulatory system we have in the UK is actually aligned at creating new opportunities for payment businesses and better outcomes for consumers.
Where do you see the payment sector, the retail payment sector going, and what's your sort of bold vision for a few years out from now?
I think there's so much choice out there. I think you can look at different trends and say, well, how will that shape the payment system? So if I think about cryptocurrency, stable coins, central bank digital currency, all very current. The Bank of England's driving forward a forum to looking at central bank digital currency. What will that mean for payments? What would the difference would it make for consumers? Will it make a bigger difference for businesses? We are on the threshold of a very, very exciting and perhaps very uncertain period around payments, and that's good, I think. Actually, it creates debate, it creates opportunity, it creates challenge. But I think that it's trying to understand where that will take us. So I think about the FCA having introduced a ban or regulation now on promotion of cryptocurrencies, because people have seen the way in which they've been used as investment or speculation. Whereas actually Myles and I would see cryptocurrency potentially as a mechanism for payment rather than speculation or investment. So trying to think where that fork in the road comes and how we manage that fork in the road, I think is quite important from a payments perspective.
A common theme, if you're trying to pick one out across all the many things that are happening is the ability to integrate and tightly integrate. And I think a commonly used phrase now is the embedded payments or embedded finance, but that really is a thing, and therefore being able to create a set of services that can make that happen. And as we've seen already with accounting, payroll, travel, thinking about financial products in different ways so that the payment becomes an enabler rather than an inhibitor. And we're starting to see that emerge across so many different sectors, whether it's property is another example, but just being able to align the payment experience to whatever the product experience is going to be growingly important and really starting to gather momentum. And then it's the building the infrastructure below that can make that happen properly. So it is automated, it is efficient, and we're not trying to deal with the plumbing below whilst there's that fantastic experience on the front end. But the two come together.